Listen carefully, because this might be the wake-up call you've been waiting for. Life is short, brutally short, and every single second you waste, you'll never get back. Some of you are scrolling, drifting, hoping that success will magically land in your lap. Let me tell you the truth. You're either building discipline or you're building excuses. There is no middle ground. Every great thing you want, money, freedom, power, respect, it all comes down to one word: focus. And yet, most people are so easily distracted. A ping on the phone, a night out, an hour wasted gossiping, and you've just thrown away the opportunity to push yourself closer to the life you dream of. The world doesn't care about your feelings, your laziness, or your excuses. The world rewards results. So you've got two choices: stay focused and build the life you want, or stay broke and keep living the same cycle of mediocrity. The decision is yours, but remember, every day you delay, someone else out there is outworking you out, disciplining you, and taking the spot you said you wanted. Discipline is the foundation of everything you say you want in life, and the problem is most people confuse discipline with motivation. Motivation is a spark. It's that little rush of energy you get after watching a video or hearing a speech, but motivation dies fast. You know this? You felt motivated before, you've made promises to yourself in that state, and yet the next morning you woke up tired, lazy, and back to the same routine. That's because motivation isn't reliable, it isn't permanent, and it sure isn't strong enough to drag you through life's battles. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel. Discipline doesn't ask you if you're in the mood. Discipline is doing what you said you'd do, long after the excitement has disappeared. It's dragging yourself out of bed when your body screams for sleep. It's saying no to the instant pleasure that tempts you daily. It's ignoring the easy route because you know the hard path is the only path that will transform you. The truth is, if you only operate when you're motivated, you will lose to the man who operates out of discipline. The man who doesn't care about feelings, who doesn't care if it hurts, who shows up regardless, he will win. That's why disciplined people seem unstoppable, because they've built a system that forces progress even on the days when most people quit. Success isn't about doing big things once in a while. It's about the small, consistent actions repeated daily without fail. And consistency is born from discipline, not from hype. Think about it, everyone can go to the gym for a week after New Year's, but how many still show up 6 months later when the motivation is gone? That's where discipline separates the winners from the losers. Discipline is a war with yourself. It's a constant battle between the voice that wants comfort and the voice that demands greatness. Every single time you give in to weakness, you make that weak voice stronger. Every time you choose discipline, you silence it and you harden your mind. Imagine if you applied that every single day, consistently shutting down the weak voice until it had no power over you. That is how empires are built. That is how champions are made. The successful don't rely on feelings. They rely on structure, on systems, on discipline that doesn't break under pressure. Most people will never see this truth because they don't want to face the cost of discipline. They want success, but they don't want to pay for it with early mornings, with sacrifices, with long hours, with pain. They want the reward without the process. That's why they'll always stay broke. Discipline is expensive, but it's cheaper than regret. Regret is permanent. Regret is looking back at your life realizing you could have done more, could have been more, but you let comfort dictate your choices. Discipline hurts now, but it gives freedom later. Lack of discipline feels comfortable now, but it will choke you later when you realize how much time you wasted. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards execution, and execution is powered by discipline. If you can't control yourself, you can't control your future. If you can't stick to your own word, how do you expect the world to trust you with more? Discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. It says, I value my future more than I value temporary comfort. Without it, you're just another person wishing, hoping, dreaming, but never achieving. With it, You become dangerous, unstoppable, and someone others can't compete with, because most people simply don't have the strength to stay consistent when motivation fades. Distractions are the silent killers of ambition, the thieves of time, the reason why so many people never come close to reaching their potential. They don't strike you like a big disaster, they chip away at you slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize you've wasted years. You think you're just checking your phone for a second. You think you're just watching one more video. You think you're just going to hang out for a few hours. But those justs add up into days, weeks, months of lost progress. Every moment you let distractions steal from you is a moment you can never buy back. That is the cruel truth people don't want to face. That time is the most expensive currency and distractions are the most effective way to keep you broke, stuck, and ordinary. The reason distractions are so dangerous is because they come disguised as harmless. They don't announce themselves as destruction. They feel comfortable, they feel easy, they feel normal. Society has normalized wasting time. It's normal to scroll endlessly. It's normal to binge, watch for hours. It's normal to procrastinate and call it relaxation. But normal is broke, normal is average, normal is slavery to entertainment, while the focused ones are using that same time to build empires, sharpen skills, and chase opportunities. What you call harmless is actually the exact reason you're stuck. People don't lose because of a lack of opportunity. They lose because they're too distracted to even see the opportunities in front of them. Every distraction you indulge in is a choice to postpone your goals. It's not that you don't have enough time. It's that your time is being stolen because you allow it to be. You claim you want freedom, you claim you want success, but you keep handing your hours to meaningless things that bring no return. If you tracked your day honestly, you'd be shocked at how much time is wasted on distractions that add zero value. And while you're distracted, someone else is locked in, someone else is grinding, someone else is focused, and that's the person who ends up taking everything you said you wanted. Distraction makes you comfortable, focus makes you powerful. You cannot have both. The worst part is that distractions don't just waste time, they weaken your mind. They train you to crave constant stimulation. They make it impossible for you to sit still and focus deeply on one thing. They rewire your brain to need cheap dopamine hits instead of long-term rewards. And once your brain is trained that way, success becomes nearly impossible because success requires long, painful stretches of boredom and consistency. It requires saying no to cheap pleasure in order to build real power. That's why so many people collapse under discipline, not because they're weak at heart, but because their minds are already enslaved to distraction. They can't go 10 minutes without checking a screen. They can't go one day without wasting hours on nonsense. And then they wonder why life doesn't give them what they want. Distractions are the most effective trap because they feel voluntary. No one forces you to waste time, you volunteer for it. You choose it, you give your attention away freely, and then you complain about not having results. The truth is, your future belongs to whatever you give your attention to. If you give it to nonsense, your life will be nonsense. If you give it to focus, your life will be power. The difference between broke and wealthy, between forgotten and legendary, is how you handle distractions. The second you decide that nothing is more valuable than your focus, you will see how quickly the world starts to bend in your favor. Your network is either your greatest asset or your biggest liability, and most people fail to realize just how much their environment controls their destiny. You can have all the ambition in the world, but if you surround yourself with people who drag you down, who poison your mindset, who normalize mediocrity, you will never rise above it. The truth is brutal. Your net worth is tied directly to your network. If the people closest to you don't push you, challenge you, inspire you, then they are holding you back, whether they mean to or not. Energy is contagious. If you spend enough time with lazy people, you will eventually start moving like them. If you surround yourself with broke people who complain about everything, who make excuses, who blame the world instead of themselves, then slowly, without even noticing, you'll start talking like them, thinking like them, and living like them. Most people underestimate just how much influence their circle has on them. You cannot spend every day around losers and expect to become a winner. It doesn't matter how disciplined you are. It doesn't matter how ambitious you think you are. If your environment is filled with people who normalize failure, your potential will suffocate. Every conversation, every joke, every shared belief is shaping you in ways you don't even realize. That's why you need to be ruthless about who gets access to your energy. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your attention. You have to start treating your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. Look at the most successful people in any industry and you'll notice a pattern. They don't spend their days with complainers, gossipers, or victims. They surround themselves with winners, people who demand more of themselves, people who operate at a high level. Being around driven people forces you to level up. It creates a standard you must rise to. It doesn't give you the option of staying average because the group won't tolerate it. On the other hand, being around unmotivated people creates the opposite effect. You'll start lowering your standards to fit in. You'll stop aiming higher because the people around you will make you feel like aiming low is acceptable. That's how most dreams die, not from lack of potential, but from the wrong environment. Cutting out losers isn't about arrogance, it's about survival. If someone constantly drains your energy, mocks your ambition, or distracts you from your goals, they are not your friend. Friends push you forward, losers pull you down. Friends hold you accountable, losers enable your excuses. Friends celebrate your growth, losers feel threatened by it, and here's the hardest truth. Sometimes the people you need to cut off are the ones closest to you. Family, childhood friends, long-time companions, if they refuse to grow, they cannot go where you're going. Loyalty doesn't mean dragging dead weight with you. Loyalty means honoring your own potential enough to protect it at all costs. You have to build a circle where growth is the minimum requirement, where laziness isn't tolerated, where winning is normal, where ambition is expected. Imagine what happens when every conversation you have fuels your vision, when every person you spend time with is hungry, disciplined, and locked in. You'd be forced to upgrade yourself every single day. That's the kind of network that multiplies your success because it doesn't just inspire you, it demands the best version of you. Your network is like the soil you plant yourself in toxic soil, and you'll rot. Plant yourself in rich soil, and you'll grow into something unstoppable. Wealth doesn't come from dabbling. It doesn't come from trying 100 things halfway and quitting when it gets hard. It comes from obsession. Every person who has built real success, who has risen above mediocrity, who has taken control of their life, had one thing in common. They were obsessed. They lived and breathed their mission. They weren't half in, half out. They weren't treating their goals like a side hobby. They didn't approach their vision with the same level of commitment as someone playing a casual game. They went all in. Obsession is what takes you from average to exceptional, from forgotten to unforgettable. Without it, you're just another face in the crowd, another person talking big but never backing it up. Dabbling is the disease of the broke. They want to try everything but master nothing. They start something, quit halfway, then chase something else because it looks easier. They're addicted to the idea of success but allergic to the grind required to achieve it. That's why they never break free. They never go deep enough into anything to unlock mastery, to build momentum, to actually see results. Meanwhile, the obsessed are laser-focused. They choose their lane, they lock in, and they push through the pain, boredom, and obstacles that make everyone else quit. That's why they win. Wealth rewards obsession because obsession is the only thing strong enough to keep you consistent when everything around you tries to pull you off track. When you're obsessed, your vision becomes your oxygen. It's on your mind when you wake up, when you go to bed, when you eat, when you work. Every decision you make is filtered through one question: does this bring me closer to my goal or does it pull me away? You don't waste time because you don't see time as casual. You see it as fuel for your mission. You don't give energy to meaningless things because your energy is sacred. The obsessed don't need to be pushed. They don't need constant motivation because their mission consumes them. It pulls them forward. That's the difference between winners and losers. Losers chase motivation. Winners are pulled by obsession. Obsession creates clarity. When you're obsessed, you stop chasing 10 different goals and you zero in on one. That level of focus eliminates distractions and gives you an edge over everyone else. Think about it. Most people are distracted, dabbling in dozens of things, never fully committed. How can they compete with someone who is all in, who eats, sleeps, and breathes their craft? They can't. That's why obsessed individuals rise so fast. They accumulate progress at a rate that average people can't match. They outwork, outthink, and outlast everyone around them. It's not because they're necessarily smarter. It's because they refuse to let go of the vision until it's reality. Wealth itself requires an obsessive mindset. Building money, building freedom, building power is not something you do casually. It requires sacrifices, late nights, early mornings, missed parties, endless repetition, relentless focus. Dabblers aren't willing to pay that price. They want balance, they want comfort, they want to play while they build. But obsession doesn't care about balance. It cares about winning. It cares about building something so powerful that one day you can live life on your own terms. The irony is, the people who refuse to obsess over their goals end up trapped, broke, and enslaved to jobs they hate, while the ones who obsessed in the beginning buy their freedom forever. Obsession is the filter that separates the weak from the strong. It reveals who really wants it and who just likes the idea of wanting it. Everyone says they want success, but few are willing to give themselves completely to the mission. The question is never, do you want it? The question is, are you obsessed enough to bleed for it, to sacrifice for it, to grind for it without guarantees, without applause, without comfort? Because only that level of obsession produces wealth, and only that level of commitment breaks you out of mediocrity. Comfort zones are the most dangerous prisons because they don't look like prisons at all. They feel warm, safe, familiar, and easy, but they quietly suffocate your potential every single day you stay inside them. People love comfort because it feels good, but what they don't realize is that comfort is the enemy of growth. Nothing great has ever been achieved inside a comfort zone. No empire was built, no fortune was made, no legacy was created from a place of ease. Every great achievement came from pain, sacrifice, and discomfort. That's why the masses stay broke. They chase comfort like it's the goal, but in reality, comfort is the trap designed to keep you weak and dependent. When you live in a comfort zone, you train yourself to avoid struggle. You convince yourself that good enough is acceptable. You stop pushing, you stop testing your limits, and you settle into routines that do nothing but keep you stagnant. Comfort makes you soft, it robs you of urgency, it kills hunger, and once hunger dies, ambition follows. The reason so many people never break out of mediocrity isn't because they lack intelligence, resources, or opportunity. It's because they refuse to leave their comfort zone long enough to demand more from themselves. They choose to live small because living big requires pain, and they aren't willing to pay that price. Comfort zones create broke zones because they keep you trading short-term ease for long-term suffering. You skip the hard work today, but you pay for it with regret tomorrow. You avoid the discomfort of discipline, but you pay with the pain of being broke. You dodge the struggle of chasing your goals, but you pay with the emptiness of never achieving them. Comfort tricks you into believing you're safe, when in reality it's slowly robbing you of everything you could become. The people who win understand that discomfort is not something to avoid, it's something to chase. They run toward the pain because they know that's where growth lives. They willingly step into situations that scare them, that test them, that stretch them, because they know every time they do, they become harder, sharper, and stronger. Think about every meaningful transformation in your life. It came from stepping outside of comfort. The first time you forced yourself to train when you didn't want to. The first time you took a risk that scared you. The first time you chose discipline instead of ease. Those moments changed you. Growth never feels good while it's happening. It feels exhausting, frustrating, even painful, but the reward is always worth it because each step outside your comfort zone expands who you are. The more discomfort you face, the bigger your capacity becomes, and the more opportunities you can seize. Comfort zones shrink your world, discomfort expands it. The harsh truth is that most people will never escape their comfort zones. They will spend their lives chasing small pleasures, entertainment, cheap dopamine, meaningless comfort, and in the end, they'll pay with an unfulfilled life. They'll look back and realize they wasted their shot because they were too scared to be uncomfortable for a little while. Winners, on the other hand, understand that temporary discomfort builds permanent strength. They treat discomfort like training. They go to war with their own weakness daily. They keep pushing the boundaries until what once felt impossible becomes normal. That's how you grow. That's how you separate yourself from everyone else who's stuck in the comfort trap. The moment you accept that comfort is the enemy, you start to see life differently. Every time you feel resistance, every time you feel fear, every time something feels uncomfortable, you recognize it as an opportunity to grow. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who live inside it until it bends to their will. Comfort zones build nothing but excuses, but discomfort builds empires. The choice between staying safe and staying broke, or stepping into discomfort and stepping into greatness, is always yours. Focus is freedom because when you control your attention, you control your destiny. Most people live like slaves without realizing it, not because someone has chained them physically, but because their mind is constantly hijacked. They allow every distraction, every notification, every pointless conversation to steal their focus and with it, their future. A man without focus is powerless. He drifts through life, pulled in every direction by things that don't matter, never building momentum, never achieving mastery, never experiencing freedom. True freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want whenever you want. It comes from the discipline of locking in on what actually matters until it pays off so heavily that your life is no longer dictated by outside forces. Focus gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. When you know exactly what you want and you direct all of your energy toward it, the world bends in your favor. Most people fail not because they aren't capable, but because they're scattered. They split their energy into 1,000 different places, dabbling in everything, committed to nothing. Focus is the multiplier. 10 units of energy scattered across 10 projects produces nothing. 10 units of energy poured into one mission creates unstoppable force. That's why the focused man always beats the distracted man, no matter how talented or intelligent the distracted man may be. When you're focused, you eliminate noise. You stop chasing trends, you stop getting caught up in what everyone else is doing, and you stay locked on your lane. That kind of consistency compounds over time. The man who spends years focused on building one skill, one business, one mission, will always surpass the man who constantly switches direction because he can't stay locked in long enough to see results. Focus creates depth, and depth creates value. Dabblers stay on the surface, never diving deep enough to achieve mastery. The focused dig so deep into their craft that they become irreplaceable, and that's where true freedom begins, when your value is undeniable. Focus also gives you control over your emotions. When your mind is scattered, you're easily swayed by fear, by doubt, by the opinions of others. But when you're locked in on your mission, those things lose their grip. You don't have time to care about negativity. You don't have energy to waste on drama. You don't allow yourself to be pulled into battles that don't move you forward. Focus protects you from nonsense. It filters your life down to what actually matters. And when everything unnecessary is cut out, you move faster, you think clearer, and you operate with a level of intensity that average people can't match. Freedom isn't about escaping hard work, it's about choosing the hard work that builds the life you want. Focus is what makes that possible. Without focus, you're just working endlessly, spinning your wheels, pouring energy into things that never pay you back. With focus, every hour you work is an investment in a future that compounds. That's why the man who focuses for 5 years can accomplish more than the man who spends 50 years distracted. Focus compresses time, it accelerates progress. It takes the impossible and makes it inevitable because it aligns your effort with precision. The harsh truth is most people are terrified of focus because it forces them to confront their excuses. If you truly focus on one mission, there is no one else to blame when you fail. You can't hide behind distractions. You can't claim you didn't have enough time, because focus exposes the truth. It's not that you couldn't, it's that you didn't. That's why so many avoid it. They'd rather stay busy, stay distracted, stay entertained, because that way they never have to face themselves. But the few who embrace focus unlock freedom on every level. They free themselves from distraction, from mediocrity, from financial chains, from dependence on others. They create lives where they decide because they earned it through relentless focus.